But it's so good to see you in the house of the Lord this morning. So good to see you in the house of the Lord. This morning we're going to begin a new series. And the series is simply titled, Finding My Place. Finding My Place. Mark chapter 10, verse 35. The whole chapter's an awesome chapter to read, but we're going to pick up with verse 35. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him, saying, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. Now think about that for just a minute. Anytime some folk come to you and they want you to agree to do whatever they ask, and they ain't asked nothing yet, you might ought to start paying attention. That's a... Should I ask that question? Have you got anybody in your life similar to that? Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he said to them, what do you want me to do for you? And they said to him, grant us that we may sit one on your right hand and the other on your left in your glory. Whew. These are some men who are trying to find their place. But Jesus said to them, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink? And be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with? Matthew chapter 16, verse 13. Familiar scripture, Bishop preached from it last Sunday. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked the disciples, saying, whom do men say that I am, the Son of Man am? Verse 14, so they said, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. And he said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered and said to them, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered and said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed it to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. These three disciples, more than all of the others, illustrate examples of men who are struggling to find their place. And as we go through this series, we're going to learn some things. We're going to look at the situation that these guys get themselves into and the things that they say. It should be a great ride. But this morning, I want to kind of lay a groundwork and a foundation for the series, Finding My Place. There are phrases that become a part of community language that we all share and that use and that has a special meaning beyond just what the words say. Phrases that are community language are things kind of like, bye Felicia, that some of you guys know the origin of and have taken to using. The concept of ride or die in the black community. People are familiar with that community language. Many others come to mind, and one a phrase that I think sums up the efforts of people finding their place occurred to me while I was preparing, and it's simply this: the struggle is real. The struggle is real. Tell your neighbor, say, the struggle is real. The struggle is real. That's one of those community phrases that you hear. And when someone says the struggle is real, they're trying to call attention to a struggle that they are dealing with that lots of people may overlook. Or perhaps lots of people just never acknowledge this particular struggle that they're dealing with, and so they call attention to it. And that's when you hear that phrase or see that phrase and you kind of smile because, you know, yeah, it is. I know what they're talking about. I've been there before, or that is present in my own life. Amen? Tell somebody, say the struggle is real. And so there's a universal struggle that everyone goes through in life. It is the struggle that you've lived with and that I have lived with. And James and John were struggling with it in our key scriptures this morning. You see, it is in your presence and in the actions and attitudes of the disciples and of the people around you. You really see the struggle in the reaction of the disciples to James and John's request. Because they were furious that James and John were asking to be seated at that table with Jesus in His glory. Jesus, in His response, made something very clear that we're going to be looking at. But Peter struggled with it. Even Jesus struggled to a certain extent with it. And so is it any wonder that you and I also struggle? It is the struggle of trying to find my place. The struggle of trying to find where do I belong. The struggle of how do I fit in. Where should I be at in this particular circumstance or that circumstance? It's the question of where am I going with my life? Anyway, where am I going? Where will my seat be at the table when I get there? Where is my seat at the table now? Do I even have a seat at the table? Is anybody going to get real and come and go to church with me this morning? Tell somebody, say the struggle is real. Jesus made it plain that finding your place requires that a price be paid. Amen. If you write things down, you ought to write that. Finding your place requires a price to be paid. Jesus said, can you drink of the cup that I'm going to drink of? Can you drink the cup of suffering that I'm going to drink of? Can you handle the baptism of pain and fire that I'm going to be baptized with? And anytime you find yourself seeking a seat at a higher table, you need to understand that there is a price to be paid. Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't take all your marbles and go home. Oh, this might be too early for this. Don't get your feelings hurt if you're trying to move to a higher table and someone at the table asks you if you're willing to pay the price that's required to sit down. If a leader is asking you if you're willing to go through what they have gone through in order to be where they're at, they're not trying to shut you down. They're not trying to hurt your feelings or run you off. It's the most amazing thing. I see people all the time who want to sit where Bishop Hanchy sits. He rubbed his head there. They want to sit where he sits, but they don't want to pay any of the prices that he had to pay in order to get there. Everybody wants to be the bishop, but nobody wants to labor 46 years in ministry. Everybody wants to be a great preacher, but nobody wants to preach in places where they paid you a nickel for preaching and it took 50 cents in gas to drive there. Everybody wants to sit at a higher table, but nobody wants to pay the price required for admission to that table. And listen to me, just because somebody checks you, oh Lord, just because somebody is willing to speak truth into your life and say, are you willing to drink from the cup you've got to drink from? in order to get where you're wanting to go. That doesn't mean they don't love you. That doesn't mean they're against you. It doesn't mean that they hate you. It means they're trying to find out if you are for real or not. Amen. They're trying to find out if you are simply wasting your time seeking a seat at that table. Because there is a price that has to be paid anytime you're wanting to sit at a higher table. There's a price that has to be paid. And so Jesus asked, can you drink from my cup? I'm going to get ahead of myself. I've already told you that in order to find your place, number one, you have to realize that there is a price to be paid for your seat at the table. But I'm going to get ahead of myself, and I'm going to tell you that finding your place requires vision.
Wow.
Finding your place requires vision. You either have to have vision yourself, or you have to be willing to listen to a man of God that has vision until you can get it for yourself. You either have to have vision or you got to listen to somebody who's got vision. One of the reasons so many people wander through life and never find their place is they have not developed vision on their own, and they're unwilling to listen to anybody else who has it. They're unwilling to listen to anybody about anything, in fact. If they would listen to somebody about something, they can learn to develop vision for themselves. But the question is, can anybody speak into your life? Can anybody speak into your life? And the truth of the matter is if you are too busy for anybody to speak into your life, it is no different than you being unwilling for someone to speak into your life. The result is absolutely and totally the same. Totally the same. And so the struggle of puzzling out who you are and where you belong in this incredible journey of life that God has called us into. It's easy to observe the struggle in the lives of people around you. It's a common theme presented in the Bible over and over again. But I have a word of hope for you this morning. You can puzzle it out. You can find your place. You can puzzle it out. Tell your neighbor, say, you can puzzle it out. You can puzzle it out. You really can. Encourage a friend. Turn to him and say, no, really, you can puzzle it out. You really can. Puzzle, in the solving positive sense, means to clarify or solve something confusing. To clarify or solve something confusing by reasoning and study. By reasoning and study. You can puzzle it out by reasoning or study. Language matters, and I deliberately chose the word puzzle for how we find our place, because if you're ever really going to find your place, then it's going to require some reasoning and some studying on your part. Wandering around thinking that you're going to play Red Rover, and God's going to say, send them right over, and you're just going to find your place without any kind of reasoning or study or effort on your part is being a super spiritual fool. It requires. Is that all right, Bishop? You might open that door for me. That don't sound like they're listening to that. Expecting just to fall into your place without reasoning and study on your part, without a price having to be paid, is not wise thinking. Too many people live life without much reasoning or study into anything that they do. And the result is that they are living life at random. And they never quite find their place. They never quite puzzle out God's plan for their life. And so finding your place, it requires a sense of vision. And it requires you to be able to see a bigger picture. You know, I found the strangest thing I have found that I like working on puzzles. I knew that I was a problem solver. I knew that I liked putting things together, but I never, ever thought that I would enjoy sitting down with a puzzle. I remember having dinner with a pastor and his wife. He was 80 years old. And after dinner, him and his wife, they were just as cute as they could be. And they wanted to play Uno with us. And I was 22. And freshly married. I'm talking about months married. 9 months married, maybe. And they had a puzzle on a card table over in the corner. And so after dinner, they liked to play Uno and work on puzzles. And I went home laughing about that old man and his wife. I couldn't imagine it. I could not fathom having the patience. Amen. I was young and I was immature, and I could not imagine having the time to be able to work on a puzzle. Amen. I mean, that just blew my mind. I was busy fixing things and doing things and not spending very much time thinking at all. I laugh. And some of you guys are probably laughing about the idea of me working on a puzzle now. Yeah, I mean, that's probably, yeah. But I have learned something that has nothing to do with age, but everything to do with maturity and experience. Being busy doing things in life without ever spending time thinking about things in life is a really foolish way to live. It's a really foolish way to live. Being busy doing things without ever spending time thinking about things is a really bad way to live. Lord, you waste so much energy, Bishop. And oh, Lord, you waste so much time when you spend all of your life doing things without ever thinking about things. How many of you have ever jumped into a situation that looked great, but you didn't think it out all the way? Can I get a witness in the house? You didn't look good, and so you said, that is good, here I go, and you just jumped in and you just got busy. Woo! All the busy people say, amen. I got busy. But then you started learning some things. You should have played the movie forward a little bit further in your head before you got so busy. Amen, Pastor K. So busy. Lord, you can waste a lot of time. Ooh. How about those relationships that look good and you just jumped into them? You spend a lot of time doing, but not much time thinking, and years of emotional torture and years of time wasted and gone down the drain. I have discovered I can spend a little time working on a puzzle. And while my physical self is figuring it out, my mental self is busy trying to figure me out. Trying to figure other things out. Trying to figure people out. Trying to figure you out. Because people are a puzzle. People are a puzzle. Working on a puzzle will teach you something about people. And it will teach you something about yourself. And you'll learn as you go. You know, this puzzle here is kind of a simple one, but there's 1,000 pieces. 1,000 pieces to that puzzle right there. Hundreds of pieces in a puzzle. And the crazy thing is that some of them will fit together. Physically, they'll fit perfectly together.
Come on. Amen. Come on.
Sometimes the physical matches pretty great.
Amen.
But the picture, the overall vision, the thing that's supposed to be on top does not line up at all. Can I break that down for you just a little bit? Can I break that down for you? Just because it matches physically does not mean you have found your place. There's something more than the physical fit that counts. There's got to be a vision that's coherent and consistent and that crosses both pieces. I'll go down another level with it. Just because you like the way her hand fits in yours does not mean she is the one. Say amen or oh me. Just because your head fits perfectly on his shoulder does not mean that you have found your place. Just because you may fit with someone physically does not mean that God has sent them to you. Can I get a witness in the house anywhere? Go ahead, give him some praise. Say amen or oh me. Do you remember hearing yourself say, oh, our hands fit so perfectly together. It was just like we were made to fit together. Come on, you might as well laugh. You might as well laugh. It might not have been that voice. It might have been, oh, look, we fit together so perfectly. I think we were made for one another. Maybe that was the voice in your memory. I don't know. But be careful of finding your place based off of the physical shape and fit of things. It's not enough that things fit together on a physical level. If you really want to find your place, then the picture on top, the vision overall has to line up as well. Or you will find yourself getting stuck in the wrong place and never finding where you truly belong. It takes vision to find your place. It takes some vision to solve a puzzle. And so be careful of finding your place by looking at the wrong markers and paying attention to all the wrong things. Be careful of thinking that you will find your place without a struggle. I hear people say things like, oh, if it's God, there won't be a struggle. Oh, if it's God, everything would just work out. Yeah, that's why Paul had such an easy life. It was God. Wait a minute, he was shipwrecked 3 times. Wait a minute, he was stoned and beaten and left for dead. Wait a minute, what do you mean if it's God, there won't be a struggle? What are you talking about? That's crazy. That's crazy. If you're going to find your place, there's a price to be paid. There's a vision you're going to have to see. And there's a struggle you're going to have to fight if you're ever going to find your place. There's a fight to find your place. There's a struggle. Usually, the person you struggle with the most in order to find your place is you. It's yourself. The person you fight with the most in order to arrive at the place God is calling you to be is not going to be a demon. It's not going to be a devil. It's not going to be the folk you think that are trying to put you down. The person you'll have to fight with the most is me. It's going to be yourself. You know, even Jesus struggled with finding his place. He goes to the temple at age 12 and begins teaching. Mary and Joseph have lost him. They have to travel back to Jerusalem in order to find him. And they find him in the temple and he's teaching. And they come to him and say, Jesus, what is wrong with you? Don't you know you scared us to death? We've been looking everywhere for you. And here's Jesus at age 12 and he replies, didn't you know I had to be about my Father's business? Physically, he fit as Mary and Joseph's 12-year-old little boy. But he struggled with the vision and the call that was inside of him. Because while physically he fit as a 12-year-old boy, everybody whispered that he was not really Joseph's son. Everybody had heard the stories about the shepherds and the stars and the angels, but all they could see was a 12-year-old. They didn't see a Messiah. And oh my God, what a struggle to find your place when you know God's calling you to be something on the inside and none of it's showing on the outside and everybody's treating you according to where you used to be or to where you are now, but what you're seeing is what God has ahead of you. My, what a struggle to find your place. When in the natural, everything is supposed to fit, but spiritually, God's calling you to a higher table. My, what a struggle. What a struggle. His own brother did not believe in him. Luke chapter 2 verse 46 says, after 3 days they found him in the temple courts, sitting. Somebody say he was sitting. Among the teachers, listening to them and asking questions. And everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and answers. Finding your place will require a struggle. Jesus, torn between his present reality and the need to find his place. They found him after 3 days seated in the temple. And he left with Mary and Joseph looking around saying, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to come be a 12-year-old boy right now. But one day the whole world's going to look for me for 3 days. And when they find me, I'm going to be seated in a heavenly temple saying, it is finished. And I'm going to be making intercession to the Father on their behalf. There was a reason he went to the temple. It wasn't to teach. I think he was just checking out what it would be like to find his place. Do you ever do that? Do you ever look for opportunities to see what it would be like if you could really find your place? Do you ever imagine, single woman, what it would be like to have somebody treat you the way that you're supposed to be treated? Amen. Spending time imagining what it would be like if you could find your place. Amen. Do you ever sit in the boss's chair when he's not there? Imagining what it would be like if you could find your place. Even Jesus struggled with finding his place. How much more are you and I going to struggle as we go through everyday life as well? But the great news is you can puzzle it out. You can puzzle it out. Folk may talk, but you can puzzle it out. Folk may talk about you behind your back like they did Jesus, but You can puzzle it out. Other folk may not believe in your potential, but you can puzzle it out. You can win the struggle with yourself. You can puzzle it out. And so maturity helps you understand vision. Maturity helps you understand timing. And maturity helps you understand that puzzling out your place takes reason and study, not action without thought. And when you're working on a puzzle, at some point you stop grabbing pieces at random and just trying to make them fit. You ever put a puzzle together? You'll try that for a little while, but you'll get tired of it. At some point you'll stop grabbing pieces at random trying to make them fit. At some point in life you'll stop taking opportunities at random. And instead you'll begin to study the overall picture, the overall design. You can stare at the chaos of all the pieces and you can take them at random, or you can spend your time looking at the overall pattern. You can spend your time looking at the picture, and then all of a sudden the chaos of the pieces around you begins to change. If you're spending more time looking at the pieces than you are at the pattern, you're putting a puzzle together the wrong way. If you're spending more time looking at the chaos of the pieces around you than trying to get a vision for the pattern God has called you to, then you're trying to find your place the wrong way. The wrong way. Sooner or later you begin to get a sense of vision. Sooner or later you begin to get a sense of purpose that lines up with what the Spirit of the Lord is saying inside of you. And it changes the way that you will approach life. It changes the way you'll approach putting a puzzle together. Stop looking for a magic piece in the middle of the chaos that's going to suddenly turn you into something you're not. Stop looking for a magic piece in the middle of the puzzle that's going to magically transport you to your seat at the table, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to find a piece that's going to make you Joyce Myers. You're not going to find one piece that's going to turn you into whoever it is that you're hoping and wishing you could be. Tasha Cobb, whoever. And so I put this puzzle together over here. And as you can see on the picture, it's missing one piece. One piece. All that time putting that puzzle together, and it's missing one piece. And so I got my family together and I said, y'all have lost one of my pieces. Y'all have lost one of my pieces. My wife might have said something like, who spent the most time working on it? But she did. She's a good one. I said, so y'all have lost one of my pieces, and if y'all do not find it, by 8 o'clock, I'm starting executing one member of the family per day. It was Friday. Judah was smiling. He knew he was spending the night at Grandmother and Papa's house. My wife's eyes got big. She said, I'm going to be the only one here. But missing a piece. But isn't that the way all of us are? Oh, yeah. Missing a piece. Trying to find your place in life. But you seem to be missing a piece. There's something you're looking for that you can't find. Well, I know who got your piece. I got suspicions about who took that one, but I know. I know who got yours. Jesus Christ got your piece. He has what you're missing. He took what you're missing and He left you and went forward into your future. He went forward to where your destiny is calling you. He went forward to where He wants you to be. The Bible says that that God made a witness to all men that they might feel after him, that they might pursue after him, and happily they might find him. And so what you're missing is wrapped up in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
It's not wrapped up in Job. It's not wrapped up in Susie. It's wrapped up in Jesus. And so if you want to find your place, you're going to have to find Jesus. And you got to get a hold of Jesus. Now we're going to pray for people who need help finding their place. We're going to pray for you to have the vision that you need. We're going to pray for you to have the strength for the struggle. We're going to pray that you're willing to pay the price to find your place.